of you have been here all day? Want to see you? Yeah, pretty much. It's been a good day. It's been nice to kind of just connect to people. It's gone fast, which is nice too. Just got enough stuff that there's a lot of interesting things to do.
How much is the license plate fee in Colorado?
All right. Well, I don't want people to have to be here too much longer than they need to be, because I know some of you have to get to other things and whatever, and I want to respect your time too. So there might be people kind of trickling in, coming through. No, you're fine. Because Beth had just announced that we were doing the talk, so there might be some more people coming in, but I want to kind of get started. So I'm talking about work-life balance, and this is a topic that everybody wants to have a part of, but people feel like, gosh, I'm so overwhelmed, I have so much to do, I can't really do it anyway. Or they sense that, no, I do the best I can, right? Like I try to make sure that I'm balanced, I'm trying to make sure that I'm getting everything in, but in reality, like when we really check in with ourselves, we recognize that maybe we're not doing quite as good of a job as we hoped or we wanted to do with it. And so today I'm just kind of hoping to bring some awareness to what are some of the things that maybe you're missing, or maybe some of the things you're really doing well. Sometimes celebrating success becomes one of the most important pieces as women, because we're often the hardest people on ourselves. And when we're so hard on ourselves, we forget what we are doing well. So why am I talking to you? Why am I up here? So my name, as you probably know, is Jasmine, and I started Relate Family Therapy and Counseling in 2011. I've worked in a lot of different facets. I've worked with kids, outpatient psych. I ran a residential treatment facility for teens and worked as a program coordinator there. I did wraparound in San Francisco, meaning when you have a child who's either being removed from their home or a child who maybe is going back into their home, we would form a team around the child in order to help them have success and maintain that placement. And when I moved to Colorado, I decided that it was time for me to work more on my own in private practice. And one of the big things that I thought when I did that is that, it has easier hours. Yeah, it's a little more cushy in terms of the clientele and that sort of stuff. And I quickly found that that's not the case, right? Like, you have to work evening hours, you have to work weekend hours. People want to come when they have their availability, and your product is you. So a lot of you have other products that even if you're having a bad day, that product still represents itself, and you can be like, here it is. I can't do that, right? Like, I am me, and I have to be on, and I have to be emotionally available and ready for that person. And part of that is creating a good balance for myself. And I tend to suck at it because I want to do it all. And I'm a master and notorious for thinking that I can do it all. And typically what gives out for me is my physical health, right? It's my first sign that I'm not doing what I'm supposed to do. I end up not sleeping well, or I end up getting sick, or just feeling crappy. And when that happens, I know that I'm doing too much. So that's kind of the first thing I want you to think of is, how do you know when you're not balanced? So fast forward, when I started Relate, I started helping people, and I loved it. I loved helping kids, I loved helping families, and as I did that, people would want me to see them too. I want you to see myself, I want you to see me and my husband for couples therapy. And I quickly realized I can't do it all. And so in order to make sure that I was referring people to people that I trusted, I created a team of therapists that I just think are pretty stellar. And one of them's here today, Miss Megan. Megan is our newest addition to Relate. She's going to see tweens, teens, and adults. All of our therapists have their own specialties. We do infant mental health all the way on through. We have rooms that are specifically designed for the client, which I know many of you have kind of talk to me today, but we have a young child playroom, we have a teen tween space, we have family rooms, and we have individual couples rooms as well. So when a client comes in, they sense that they're there, it's homey for them, it's their safe space. They're not coming into a therapist's office. How many times have you gone into somebody's office where you just maybe feel just a little uncomfortable? It's like their space. They still got their garbanzos cup and all their stuff going on from the night before. It smells like something. They got 30 books sitting there and 10 things of paper, and they're, shifting through it to get to your stuff. I wanted to prevent that feeling for these clients. I wanted them to walk into the room and feel like this place is mine. It's neat, it's safe, and it's supportive. And we work with very high trauma cases. We work with people that have been to therapy before and it hasn't been successful. We work with people who are at their wits' end, court-ordered therapy, people that sense that I don't know what else I can do. And so when they come into our space, they feel 100% supported by us. So in building this team of rock star therapists, these are the other therapists that we have on our team. I interviewed a ton of people. And one of the big things that I talk to them about is, how do you balance your life? What do you do when you're not here? How do you feel when someone criticizes you? How do you feel and adjust when you sense you're not doing what you need to do? Because for some people, it can weigh on them and they can perseverate, which means you can't get rid of it, right? And for some people, they avoid it. Both populations can cause problems, right? And it throws off your balance because your focus becomes off. And that's part of that piece we'll talk about in terms of your energy. I provided all you with, and if you didn't get it, there's a sheet we can pass over for finding balance. It's a really simple exercise we're going to do later. Just help me and pass the ones who don't have it. Yeah. These are some of the balance pieces that come, and I liked this as a visual, but we have another one we'll kind of talk through later. So what are some of your roles in your life? We all have these different roles in our world that come up for us. And when we think about our roles, they're what makes us feel safe. And what's also cool is that we have different roles in different times in our life. So when I go back home to Iowa with all my cousins, I am the clown, right? I have little dances I do for all of them. I'm the only girl. They're all boys. So I'm the one that everybody kind of looks to just be the nurturer. In my life now, that's not who I am. But when I go back, I fall very easily back into that role, right? And we all have that within our lives. We have patterns that we have with these specific people and these roles that create us. And some of them feel better than others. Some of them we take on and we're a little uncomfortable in them. We don't necessarily want them, or we don't feel like they're the right fit for us, but we do them out of necessity. Because we fill these roles so we can feel whole. They're out of habit, like I was saying, or they're out of necessity. If I don't do this, who else is going to do it? Right? How many times have you felt that in your own life? You take on that pressure of like, oh gosh, I don't want to do this, but no one else is going to do it. And I feel like someone needs to do it. And since you sense someone needs to do it, you take it on. It becomes part of your identity then, though. Because when other people see that you do this role, they're going to let you, right? There are some roles that I love. I love to cook. Boy, it's one of my favorite things. And if somebody tells me I'm not making Thanksgiving, I'd probably cry and be sad. But do you know I complain about it every year? I do. I want someone to see I have fallen on the sword, right? I want someone to acknowledge that I make your favorite and your favorite and your favorite, and I make them all every year because I know you're going to be there, and I know you like this kind of stuffing and you like this. I make like 20 things, I'm not joking. And I do it because I want everyone to feel like they're the most important person that entered there. That's tiring. All I want is for them to acknowledge it, right? I don't know if that's all I want, but I sense that's all I want. And when I feel like they they're like, well, you've done this for 10 years, Jasmine. Like, you must like it. That's what my husband always says. Well, you love to do it. That's not what I'm looking for, okay? I want you to tell me that no one else would do this other than me. Out of necessity, I fill that role, and I fill it consistently because I want to be that person. It makes me feel whole. Those are the places you maintain those roles. You do it with your friends. You know, the biggest one is with your employees and on social media, right? The way you present to these people that you can't be quite as vulnerable with, you know, you just have to have that little bit extra in you. And I have to say, some people are really good at that. You know, they maintain a really strong boundary around their workplace and around social media. Like, they only present when they went to the pumpkin patch. And they're kids and they're smiling, you know, and you're like, oh, they live such a great life. But I try to do, you know, an occasional, like, my kids are slobs and I suck post, like, once in a while, just to, like, keep me human. But for the most part, I think that, you know, we present our best self on social media, and I think that feels kind of nice, right? But for some people, that kills them because they see other people doing these great things, and they feel like, oh, gosh, I'm not doing that. And they feel kind of worthless, like, well, why can't I figure out how to get my kids to the pumpkin patch in Erie? You know, and why didn't I get to do the apple picking? You know, my number wasn't picked. And there are just all these ways that people sense that they aren't worthy of what their friends are presenting. And I think that's part of how we create this imbalance too, because we kind of ramp it up when we see somebody that we maybe like have a little bit of a competitive mindset about. We're like, no, we're getting there this weekend. We're doing a corn maze. Right? Life is a balancing act. These are so little, but I think some of them are really great because it talks about how you balance the two sides. Eating what you love versus living a healthy lifestyle. Spending money now. Treat yourself, right? Who's heard that? Or you treat yourself. But then you're like, no, I gotta save money because I gotta make sure I have money in the future. Advocating for your ideas, but then also compromising. You know, you want to make sure that you have this balance for people and for yourself. And there's a give and take to everything. I don't know what time it is. Okay. And when you're sensing that you're out of balance, the following your heart versus listening to your head. How many times have you run into that? Oh gosh, so many times. And I mean, not to plug therapy, but that is one of those places that we come into play, right? If you find yourself too often not balancing out in terms of your head and your heart, that really is something that a therapist can help you work through. Because the reality is that sometimes we just need to learn how to do that. Now, for the most part, people can follow their intuition and go with it. And I think that we got to learn to trust that. But there are also times when your head knows what's going on too. So again, this list has so many of them, and it's just really thinking about how the pendulum swings. You know, balance is such a natural part of our lives, and you have to be able to eat the candy bar and the salad, right? You can't just do one, you got to do them both. Yeah, I saw.
Oh yeah, love salads too.
Yeah, exactly. So, I decided today that these are the big three in terms of focusing on balance. Your time, energy, and money. I harp on these all the time when I talk to people about whether or not they want to come and be in a relationship in a therapy room. Because those are the three things that people have to decide are worth it. Is this worth my time? Is it worth my energy? And is it worth my money? If people don't feel like it's worth all three of those, they are not staying. They're not buying your product. They're not going to do what you think that they need to do. They have to find value in all three of those areas. Those three areas create the balance of our lives too. If we can sense that we're recognizing these three things, we will have a better balance in ourselves. So when you think about what you value, some of the first things that always come up are your family, right? You value your kids, you value your relationships, your friends. People in this setting, and hopefully in most, value their career or whatever they've chosen to do for their life's work. You know, the work-life idea, it's kind of a misnomer, right? Because work is part of your life. You should want work to be part of your life. You shouldn't want to go to work and get away from your life, which some people do. And you don't want to have the opposite either, where you feel like work isn't my life. I'm not real there. It doesn't feel good there. Kind of like what we were talking about in the forum with Beth. It's that when you sense that there's like this uncomfortable feeling in your job and it's not who you are and you're not true to it, you're not going to be happy there and you're not going to stay. You want a sense that it's pure for you. You have both. You have value in your work and your life, but they're one and the same. Any things that you value that you want to throw out there is, I won't make you talk, just if you have just an idea of something that you value that I didn't name. A lot of people really value where they live. They have created a home for their family, have been able to take something that, you know, they maybe had rented, or maybe they've been able to purchase a home for the first time, and they've created a community for themselves. And they really do. They value that. A lot of people really value just their own time, right? Like being able to say, like, I have freedom in my time. I choose how I'm going to spend my time. I choose what I'm going to do with it. That's a thing that a lot of people value. And you know, something that people value that they don't often name when you first get to know them, but they might name further down, is they value their influence. People want to feel like what they say is being heard, and they want people to recognize what they're saying as something important and valuable. And that's not just within your family. They want that universally, right? You want to feel heard, and you want people to recognize what you're saying, and get something out of that. And so your influence is something that people really value that we don't think about. But that is part of this piece as well. You know, that networking piece, that talking to people, that putting yourself out there one-on-one. Are they going to value what I have to say? My business, who I am, the time they're spending with me? That becomes part of who you are and the makeup of what you value and they value. So the first part of this is value your time. You know, when you think about how you spend your time, what comes to mind for you? Earlier today, Mary talked about time management, right? And she went into some of the tips and tools and how to utilize time. And one of the things that kept coming up for me was, oh my gosh, I need to put time into managing my time, right? Because, like, shit, you gotta create a calendar, like, you gotta get 5 new apps. I mean, I was like, oh my gosh, this is not my personality. Like, I am not gonna do this. Now, there were some great things that I've talked about, like, after we left. I was like, oh no, I could use that and this app and whatever. But I'm not gonna make a calendar for myself every week. As much as I think it's valuable and I think it could be great, I'm not gonna do that, right? And I don't know if that means I value my time or not, because, like, maybe I value my time so much I know I'm not going to use it, or so little because I won't try it. But I just know that's not me. But I also know I'm very efficient with my time. I know that's one of my biggest skills, except when it comes to laundry. Yeah, this isn't even that bad. This is our laundry room at home. I have never valued laundry. I have never valued the time it takes. I even paid a woman to come in and fold our clothes, no joke, a couple years ago, once a month, because I was like, I am not doing laundry. I can't stand it. Now, I'll cook to you all day, right? I'll clean the kitchen, I'll clean the bathroom, but I will not do this, okay? And if I need something, I'll wash one load, okay? This is something I do not find is worth my time.
Neither does my son.
Yeah, and the kids don't. When people are like, my kids don't do their laundry, I'm like, so? No, it makes a difference. But you know, someone needs to do it, right? Like, it needs to be, like, taken care of. But you've got to figure out how to balance it. Who's going to take care of it? How are they going to take care of it? What's it going to look like for your life? And who's going to create that time? And what is their time worth compared to yours? You know, having a 10-year-old child put in their own load of laundry, their time's worth significantly less than yours, right? Them doing their own laundry is very valuable, because for you to be able to have your child take that on, they can put away their own clothes and do their own laundry, and apparently they're supposed to be able to do it by their 7. I don't know if that's exactly accurate. I usually say 10, but you have to pick your battles with who and how you're going to take on your time. Having someone clean your house, whether it's every week, once a month, every 3 months, how much is your time worth? You know, finding the best deal for things. How many of you like scour the internet in order to find the best deal? You're like, oh no, see, it's not worth your time. Now there are some people, it's very worth their time, right? To find an extra 20% off, that's big time. I'll drive, well, I won't, but other people in my life will drive 2 miles extra to get gas, 2 cents less a gallon. I'm not doing that, but there are other people that will, because to them, that's worth its time. Now, there are a lot of ways that this happens for you. And when you take it on, kind of think through, what is your time worth? That was something that Mary talked about this morning as well. Where does your energy go? Woo! You have those days where you are tired. It just happens, right? It sneaks up on you. It's like 9 at night, and you're like, where did this day go? And you're so tired you can't sleep. Right? You're just so tired. You cannot sleep. And you just feel like something's got to give here, right? Because your energy's going into X, Y, and Z. But there's part of our brain that's like, if I could really just fit in whatever it is, you know, we always have something, right? We're just not getting to. I value this, but my energy tells me I'm not doing it. That's the glorification of busyness, right? That right there is what people will name. If you say, how are you feeling lately, or what's going on? I'm tired. I'm busy. I'm busy. And when you really get to what does that mean, it means I don't have energy for anything else. I've taken all my energy and I've put it into everything I possibly can, and I cannot do anything more with my energy. That's the glorification of busyness. And when you think about what you say to yourself about, I'm so busy, what you're really saying is, I don't have any more energy. Right? Because if you had more energy, you'd do more stuff. Right? You would. But you just don't. So recognizing where you're putting that energy. Physical energy. You know, just a general walking, standing, breathing, just like sometimes people just have that naturally labored, anxious breathing because they're already a little heightened. You know, like when you kind of get into work mode, or just when you're having that stressful day, your body just runs a little hotter. And that can be tiring for you. The other piece is listening. Active listening takes a lot of energy. You all know that, right? Like when you've gone out with friends and you've had a long day, and you're like, oh my God, just put your kid in soccer. God, I don't want to hear any more about this. Baseball, soccer, he's 7. Like, who cares? Like when you start to get that like irritated feeling when you're listening to someone's problem, that's not good in a therapist, right? That's compassion fatigue. We have a fancy name for it. We call it compassion fatigue. But in real people, it's that you don't have energy. Because you do. Like, you know that feeling. And it's not even the feeling of you want to talk either. It's just a feeling you don't want to listen. I'm just done. And we often have that when we have a lot of customers. Right? Because when you kind of get in this place where you're taking care of what other people need, and then you go home. There was a time, I just started doing it recently again. I've worked with little kids. I have a play therapy certification, and I have 3 of my own kids, and they're 8, 6, and 2, okay? And while I was kind of in that stage where I had my baby, I didn't want to see little kids. I actually would give all the little kid clients to other therapists because I just knew my heart wasn't in it, right? Like I had to do it there, I had to do it at home. And just recently I felt like, no, I can do that because my kids are getting a little older now, and a little more self-sufficient. So I have been able to sense that I'm ready to do that work again. And I think that definitely comes up in all sorts of avenues. One of the things we talked about a little bit in the workshop with Beth was the differences between texting and calling and emailing. And, some people just have personalities for each one of those. Like some people just want to do emails to clients, and some people love to text, and some people like to call. And that's something that when you start to burn out, if you're usually a caller and all of a sudden you're like, I'll just email them. Nope. That's telling me you're a little burnt out, right? So when your typical methods of communication are failing you, that's when you're getting burnt out. Mentally, that focus, that concentration we were just talking about. Forward thinking too much about your future goals. I'm not where I want to be. I'm not doing what I want to do. I need to achieve this by the end of the year, the end of this decade, 82 days. You've got 82 days in this decade. Like it's like this, I have to do it by the time I'm 50. I've got to do it by Friday. We create deadline after deadline. That forward thinking of like, I will get it done by that day. Why? I'll often ask clients, I'm like, well, why'd you make up that day? Well, no, I just know I need to get it done by the end of the week. And I'm like, it's killing you. Like, what if you said it was on the 15th instead of the 12th? Like, what would the difference be? Oh, there's kind of a light bulb around like, why was I so black and white about this? Why did I think that it was necessary to get it done? Now, there's a lot of true deadlines in this world, right? But if you are constantly setting your own goals and having that forward thinking, you're putting a lot of energy into things that maybe you don't need to. Past perseveration, same idea. I did things wrong, I have regret, I made those decisions too quickly, I made those decisions too slowly. When you're always analyzing what you did before, and when you're always analyzing what others around you did before. Now there's something to be gleaned off of that, right? There's some value in checking in over what you've done in the past. But if you're doing it to the extent where you feel like you're really focusing on it, you're not balancing your life. You're taking too much of your time and energy focusing on something you really can't change. Current presentation, same thing. People that only are in this here and now at this moment, who don't create plans, who don't have that type of focus for having that forward thinking, they often get overwhelmed more than anybody, right? Because if you're just in this moment, like, I need to get this done now, I need to get this done, and you don't have a plan of action around how to do it, it just becomes overwhelming in your mind because you're focusing it on all of it at once, really, right? Because you're not taking it and chunking it and doing some of the successful strategies we know that work with time. Creativity. This is one of the first things that flies out the window for people when they've experienced high trauma and when they feel stressed and overwhelmed. Think about your life and when you're most creative. And this is not just scrapbooking, people. This is like getting your kids to and from places, and oh, here's an alternative, and oh, I thought this through in this way, and it's, oh, I'm gonna make something without a recipe, and it's using your brain in this way where you're kind of taking and melding ideas in a creative way. People don't utilize that at all when they're highly stressed because they get tunnel vision. These are the things I need to get done. I need to get them done by these times. And if I don't get them done, there are consequences for that. So they lose that creative part of them that people really value. And it does sort of feed your soul too. Finally is being too solution focused. What do I need to get done? How am I going to do it? which is the backside of the creativity. The last part of that trilogy was the money. When you think about what money equals to you, you know, money's not an evil thing, right? But it represents something for all of us. And I often work with female clients and mothers and that actually go out of their way to avoid talking to their spouse about money because it's overwhelming, or they just feel like they don't want to know, almost like if I know then maybe I'm like in charge of it or I have to take care of it. And I often say, like, it's good to be curious. It's good to know what's going on, you know, particularly about money, because money does hold power. Our culture has set it up where money holds freedom, and it does create a value for you. The way that we show people that we have money is also something that we really value as well. And looking at when that's important to you and when it's not. For some people, it's they really want to drive a really nice car, right? For some people, it's that they really want to live in a certain neighborhood, or they want to be able to say they're sending their kids to a certain school. But we all have ways that we value money, that if we look at them, we can decide, you know, if our things match up with the people that are closest to us too, if those values make sense, and also if some of those things are worth our time and energy.
Bye, Frank.
We could have dialed him in. And
I don't know if we would want to, because I get a lot of random calls. I don't know, Frank.
Okay.
Okay. So, what we're going to do now is you're going to fill in your own wheel. Okay? So I've talked through all of the different parts of this. And what you're going to do is you're going to take and put a dot on the line next to the area. So, career. If you feel like you're doing everything you possibly can and your career's going amazing, your dot will be all the way out on this line. If you feel like, no, you know what, there's a lot of stuff I need to do in my career, I'm very stressed about it, then your dot's going to be closer to the center, okay? So the further out you are on this, the more aligned you feel with that category, okay? Does that make sense? Okay. Go ahead and fill out your charts. You're just in time for our charts. Oh, are there any more lines?
There's some over here.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah.
So we're getting really close on time. But when you look at your chart, is it what you had sort of expected or no? No?
I don't even know if this is a shape.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like it's very balanced. No, mine looked a little Pac-Man-esque. I had some couple.
It's like an amoeba.
Well, I really like checking in with this every once in a while, because I think that sometimes we forget what parts of life we really do value that are not just like our family and, you know, our career. There are a lot of pieces of life that make up a whole and balanced life. And for some people, spirituality is really important, and maybe they see by this chart that, no, I'm not getting what I need in that area. And for some people, they're like, no, you know, I'm not doing anything to put my time, energy, and money into it, but I feel like it's enough. It's enough for me. And if that's the case, it will be more even, right? So when you're looking through it, you can sense where you need to grow. One of the things for me is, prior to this, actually a couple months ago, I've been really, really working hard because I've wanted to hire new people, and I'm so grateful for Megan. She's, like I said, she's one of the new therapists. But before that, I was taking on all the new clients because we didn't have anybody else. And one day I actually was really upset because I said, I'm not being creative. And that's something that I value so much. I mean, I'm a play therapist, right? Like, I love playing and doing expressive arts with kids and doing all this stuff. And it was becoming something I did at work. It wasn't something that I did with my own kids even. I wasn't being creative and present like that. And at that point, I really felt like, no, I need to hire somebody new because I can't do this anymore the way I'm doing it. And it really was based around the idea that I felt that creativity was valuable to me before I even checked in with this chart. So in your own life, if you really sense that there's a piece of it, you know, life vision is another one. I think I really liked that one on this chart because it is true. You know, when you have a better vision for where you are overall, it just is more of a guiding star for you. And in terms of Gottman's work, Gottman created the Love Lab and talked about couples work and how people create better, more cohesive, loving partnerships. One of his main concepts is that you have these things and goals that you and your partner really work to achieve together, right? Like, you share the same future story. So your life vision really does reflect on how your own relationship within your partnership is going as well, too. Because if you don't really know what your life vision is, you're either going off your partner's or you don't have one. And then you're missing out on this opportunity to be able to create a story for your future that feels good and connected. So, I gotta remind everybody, there's gotta be a therapeutic message, right? I mean, you really are enough. You got yourself to this conference in the snow. I mean, like, give yourselves some credit. You know, we just are so hard on ourselves. I really, more than anything, I feel that so often with my female clients. I just feel like they just are so hard on themselves. They take on the world, right? And when they do it, they really lose out because they do forget where they're succeeding and what they're doing that's right. And just know that you are enough. Your kids think you're enough. Your spouse thinks you're enough. The people that you work with think you're enough. So just recognize that first and foremost. Know where you're needed. How does it feel when you invest in that area, right? If it feels icky to you, don't do it. It feels icky to me to do the laundry. I don't do it, right? That's the kind of thing that comes up for you. Where does it feel like, no, this isn't me? Work on reducing places that you feel like you aren't enough too. You know, that's that secondary piece of, you know, where do you just feel like you just never make up the ground? You're just running and running and running, especially in business, right? Like if you feel like there's an area within your business that you can never catch up on it, you need to evaluate it. You either need to funnel down and just get rid of it, or you need to figure out a way to utilize someone else in order to make sure that that can happen. Because we get stuck in this cycle of like, no, I'm going to get there. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. And when you start to feel that way, you fail. Okay? So really checking in with that in personal and professional matters. And the last concept is one that I think is so important, is where are you sabotaging yourself? What are you saying so you won't be successful in all areas of your life? I shouldn't be here anyway. Oh my gosh, I thought my business was going to take 15 years to grow this big. It's taken 2. I should not be here, right? Like, I am making way more money than I ever thought I was going to, and it's scary. Isn't that funny how when we start feeling successful, we feel like a fraud? Like, why are people buying these things from me? Recognizing that you're there because you are the expert. You're doing this because you're valuable. You're in the right place. Your time is valuable. Everybody says all the time, charge what you're worth. Know what you're worth. Maybe you don't always charge it, but know. Your time is worth something. I didn't deserve this. They must not realize. They don't know I don't do my own laundry. Right? Really? I got it all together. Oh no. Right? Yeah, we do now. This is too good to last forever. There's a bubble here. There's some sort of a curve going on. In a year from now, I won't be this successful. I am the only one that can do it this way. Oh yeah. I hear this all the time. All the time. I'm the only one that can do it. Do you know who says it to me the most? Me. Yeah. A couple people in the room know that. No one understands what I go through. You're not an island, okay? People do understand what you're going through. They may not experience it in the exact same way you do, but they do get what you're going through. They do understand more than you think. And maybe I'm just not worth more than this. If you're at some sort of a plateau or you're working through something and you sense maybe I'm just not worth more than this, you're wrong. There is something you're missing out on. It's that whole piece of what are you missing here? What are you not evaluating? Because you are worth that. And plan for your future success, right? It's there. The more you work toward it, the more specialized you become, the more you recognize your mission, the more you recognize where you succeed. That becomes your kernel of truth, right? And when you can sell your kernel of truth, people feel your worth. Have you noticed that? When you say something to somebody that you know is honest, I am a good mom. You can feel that I believe that. I believe it. If you have your kernels of truth and you present it to somebody, doesn't it feel so real when somebody does share that piece with you? When you get past the how's the weather and you sense like, no, I do know this. I can do this for you. I can help you with this. That's a key to the networking part of business. And that's what so many of our businesses rely so heavily on. Is yes, I can do this for you. I can help you with this. I am successful, or I am getting there. And how can you do that? Your vision got you here. Let it lead the way. Right? You had a reason for doing this. Stay true to that. Whatever it was is valuable. And just figure it out again. Give yourself credit for your mistakes. So many people do the opposite. Right? They don't give themselves credit for their mistakes. It's like, yeah, I screwed that up. Well, actually, it looks like you did it better. Right? This next time you did it better. You did learn something from that. You're a pyramid, right? Give yourself credit, and no one is perfect. All these people that you go out and you see, they already have their swag. They already put together their beautiful table. They have their mantra. All these people that have already done these pieces that you're working on, they're not perfect either. There are things they're working on. You may not know it. They might not present it to you, but they're still working on things too. You know, we get this vision of people and we're like, oh my gosh, they're so much more prepared than I am. They understand this so much more than I do. And we start feeling less than and less than and less than. But the reality is, if you really sat down and talked to them, they'd have 10 things they think they needed to do better too. Easily. You really do have something that no one else can offer. There is room for everyone. There's a McDonald's, there's a Burger King, there's a Good Times, there's a Jack in the Box, right? Like, if somebody didn't think that was worthwhile, we would only have McDonald's, right? Like, it's that way in every industry. There's a Walgreens, and then someone went and put a CVS like 3 blocks away. And I'm like, what? Why do they need a CVS? Well, guess what? They're both always busy. So someone knew something I didn't know, right? And just because there's somebody else down the street doing something like you do or similar, that doesn't mean they're offering the same product you do. You don't have to feel threatened by their existence. Sometimes when people feel like there's lots of options, they feel like they should be doing something too, right? Oh yeah, everybody has a graphic designer these days, right? So when you sense that everybody's doing it, you want to be part of it. And that means more business for everyone. And truly, small steps just make up the journey. Give yourself credit for making the steps. If you sit down and you make a calendar of your time this next week, you let me know. Because I'm going to applaud you. Because that is a small step towards success, isn't it? You know. That is something that you're taking the time to do something new and taking the step towards something to better yourself. You're making the right choice. Thanks for being here.
Thanks, Jasmine.
Anybody have any questions for me?
That was great.